Hello, everyone. Welcome into episode 162 of the Stomp the Bus Show. I'm your host, Mark Harris, and it's been a little bit. Been since the day Randy Bennett was hired back in March. Kind of just wasn't feeling like podcasting, whatever it is. Things got in the way, but I am ready to go today on Friday, the 10th of April, and there's a lot to dive into, mostly about men's basketball. And once again, my procrastination has worked because there's a lot of actual news to dive into with the transfer portal and who's staying at ASU, who's leaving, who's entering. That's a lot of fun. And so I'm excited to see how this roster shapes up with Randy Bennett and the new coaching staff. I'm going to talk about some baseball as well. ASU baseball doing pretty well, and some football, spring training or spring football. I wouldn't say there's been all sorts of crazy storylines, but there's been some interesting developments, and so I'll touch on that as well. Before I get going, please like and subscribe on YouTube and then rate and review on your podcast platform of choice. This helps the show gain visibility and I don't know, just do it for fun. You get to see my beautiful face every time a new episode goes up when you subscribe on YouTube. So do that for me, please. Thank you so much. All right. ASU men's basketball. Oh, man. I was listening to episode 161, one little clip of it at the end, and I made a point of saying how, it doesn't really matter that Randy Bennett's old. All these coaches are old. Like, it's not that big of a deal. And I think my ultimate thesis is still correct. But I think his advanced age may be a reason that he's been in the hospital for so long at the Mayo Clinic. I don't know what is going on. The fact that it still hasn't been announced that Bennett has had his official press conference. It's been, let's see, good. March 23rd was the day he was hired. So that's another week. It's been 2.5 weeks. 2.5 weeks since the official announcement, and there still has been no press conference. It's a little concerning. It is a little concerning. I will not lie. But the concern is assuaged with the assistant coaches who have been hired by ASU. And I will be honest, the fact that they got Rick Croy from Cal Baptist, taking him as a head coach, he had been the head coach at Cal Baptist for 13 seasons. They were a Division II power, and then he eventually continued to work and build them up, and they just made the tournament this past year, and they played Kansas very well in a round one game. And so obviously his son, J. Rob Croy, is coming along as well, but I'm just kind of blown away that someone who, if you had told me, let's say at the beginning of March, that ASU was going to they're going to hire a mid-major coach who made the tournament from California, and it's going to be the guy from Cal Baptist, I wouldn't be overjoyed, but I would be like, oh, okay, this makes sense. Like, this guy has he's been a head coach for 13 years. He's successful, and he just made the tournament. Like, if it had just been him as head coach, like, it doesn't have the cachet of Randy Bennett, but it is a legitimate hire. And so to have him be the head assistant coach, that's just lends to so much credibility for Bennett, and it's just more brain power, right? So what with Bennett being, I don't know, hospitalized, just out of the picture, you have this guy, you have Croy as your main assistant. Like, this makes it much more easier to deal with. Obviously you'd rather have Bennett out there pounding the pavement and, kind of leading the charge. But having Croy in here is a fantastic thing for ASU men's basketball. It just is. And I think it's helped. I don't know. Like, I think it'll probably help in terms of talent acquisition and just kind of putting together a roster in now the offseason for college basketball. So I'm really happy about adding him. They also recently added David Patrick. David Patrick has an Australian connection. I believe he's from Australia. Um, let's see. He's been a high-ranking assistant before, 20 years of coaching at D1, Olympic, and FIBA levels. He's from Australia, so he's from Melbourne, I believe. He had been an assistant coach at LSU for a bit. So this is someone who has a respected background in the coaching community. And again, like, I think you've kind of already seen his impact with one of the portal commits that was announced today. And so getting a guy like David Patrick, who had been connected with Bennett in the past, has the Australian connection, like, this all just kind of makes sense. And then when you go back to the announcement of Rick Croy being the associate head coach, it is also Joe. I'm going to say Rahone. I don't know exactly how to pronounce it. Rahone. I'll just say Joe Rahone. Joe H. I'm sorry, kid Lord. Joe Rahon. Joe Rahone. He's joining the program as an associate head coach. Spent 5 seasons with Bennett as an assistant and associate head coach at St. Mary's. Obviously, is very familiar with the style. He had been a graduate assistant as associate head coach. They went 27-6 and split the WCC Western regular season conference championship. And so this is someone who is very connected to the way that Randy Bennett runs things. And he also played for Coach Bennett as well, which kind of adds to a legitimacy of bringing him on. So you have those two guys as your main 2 assistants, along with Croy. And let's read Croy's part in the official announcement that was on March 29th. Rick Croy is joining the Sun Devil men's basketball program after spending the past 13 seasons as the head coach of Cal Baptist University. He helped the Lancers transition from a D2 powerhouse to a Division I NCAA tournament participant this season. In his first 2 seasons of Division I play, the Lancers combined to win 37 games, an NCAA record for most wins in the first 2 years of a transition program. During his tenure at Riverside, he compiled a 275-137 record and established himself as one of the top developers of talent in all of college basketball. Guards Dominique Daniels, Milan Aqua were named WAC Player of the Year under the guidance of Croy. The last season was the pinnacle of Croy's tenure at CBU. The Lancers finished the year with 25 wins, the most in the program's D1 history. They were awarded the number 13 seed in the 2026 NCAA men's basketball tournament, where they faced Kansas. Croy surpassed 400 career wins this season and led CBU to their first WAC conference championship in program history, beating Utah Valley in the conference championship game to clinch an automatic bid to March Madness. That he had a 15-0 home record and a 19-game win streak at home, which is the 8th longest in D1. He had been an assistant at St. Mary's under Randy Bennett. The Gales went 80-22 and won 2 regular season West Coast Conference championships and 2 NCAA tournament appearances. They are reunited for the first time since 2013. So, again, this is just really impressive backgrounds for both of these guys, in addition to David Patrick. And it's just hard to be The only skeptical thing about it is, and you can say you can be skeptical about Masamba Diop leaving. That's fine. I think he's just taking it. He's just getting way more money than he would here, and so I don't. I'm gonna miss watching Masamba Diop play. Like he's a great player, but like I'm just not concerned about that in terms of like a coaching change and how much money he's going to make versus what that money could do for other positions on the team. All these kind of things, right? So other than Jop leaving, and you could, pick it, Pig Johnson leaving or Santiago Truett leaving or Noah Mayusin leaving, like that's fine. I think those guys are all run of the mill, high level college basketball players. Like they can play Big 12 basketball, they can play high level basketball, but they're not difference makers in any sort of sense when it all comes out in the wash. Whereas Jop is, and that's why he's going to make the most money out of any of these guys, and he'll probably go to the best program. It's kind of rumored between Gonzaga and St. John's. So, other than Jop leaving, which again for me, like I thought there was kind of some, I don't want to say not reporting, but irresponsible kind of wish casting, I would say, from some members of the Sun Devil, media, kind of making it out that like, oh, maybe Masamba Diop could stay, and like, this would be so great for the program, and it's like, yeah, it would be, but like he's not going to stay. So, it's easy for me to come out and say this after the fact. I understand, but it wasn't some shocking like, oh my gosh, he's leaving. Like that to me, like that just this was very predictable, and so it's unfortunate. For on a selfish note, like for him, for Jop, it makes perfect sense to leave. Like, it's just unfortunate because I do think that if it wasn't such a loaded NBA draft, like this NBA draft is loaded, okay, and it's deep in terms of the lottery. If it was, like the year where Zachary Risacher got picked number 1 overall, or it seems like next year's draft, the 2027 NBA draft, is not going to be quite as loaded. I think there's a good chance that he would just declare for the draft this year and become, I don't know about a lottery, but a first round pick. And so it's kind of just unfortunate that, like, for ASU specifically, not for Jop. For Jop, I totally understand. I wish him well. He's a great, he was a bright spot in this season. I'm saying for ASU, it's like, oh man, we could have had a first round pick, but things happen and there's no reason for him to go to the draft this year and all these things. So, with the Jop stuff aside, the only negative thing you can say about the new hire of Bennett is that Bennett's been sick. But other than that, like with the guys who they are bringing in, one of the players they've retained, the coaching staff, right? Like the coaching staff has really assuaged a lot of concerns that I have, because it's like, okay, well, if Randy Bennett is down for a bit, like you have a guy who was a head coach for 13 years, and according to the press release, just had the best transition from D2 to D1 ever. So like clearly this guy has knowledge and can step in and be a head coach, right? So I'm honestly not worried, like, oh, what if it's like a serious thing with Bennett and he has to, like, okay, we'll just put in Rick Roy, like that's an awesome thing to have. And it does kind of speak to how boned almost all, mid-majors and low majors are. If he's just like, you know what, man, like I need to get off this ship and I need to take a assistant coaching job at ASU. It's like, oh wow, okay, like that is notable. So for all the mid-major fans watching this, I don't have anything good to tell you. Like the fact that a sitting head coach went to be a assistant coach at ASU, which yes is in the Big 12, but is a below average basketball program for the league and the level it's at, that's notable. So that's an interesting little side bit to this, but it's really just been that Bennett has been sick. And so, like other than that, you really like a lot of stuff that's going on behind the scenes. And speaking of Bennett being sick, so this was on March 29th, so a bit less than 2 weeks ago from the day I am recording. Bennett has some quotes in this story that I think are pretty, they shine a light on how he's doing. So In quote, he goes, quote, last week when I arrived in Arizona, a health situation surfaced that I'm working through right now. I'm in good hands. We feel good about the plan, and I'm incredibly appreciative of the care I've received from the team at Mayo Clinic. Everything is under control, and I will be back to full strength very soon. Okay. So on its face, this reads as good. It's a good. He's feeling fine. The fact that he has to put everything is under control raises my eyebrows a little bit, because it's like it's like the meme, like, oh, everything's fine, look away, like there's nothing to see here, and it's like, well, it's been almost a month and we haven't had any official appearance from you other than you getting off the plane. So, like, that has to be accounted for in the analysis of this. Additional quote from Bennett. Quote, what I want people to know is that nothing about our momentum has changed. We are moving forward, and I'm excited to announce two of our associate head coaches, a duo I have a ton of trust in and who truly want to be at ASU. They both bring great experience, strong relationships, and real energy as our program continues to grow. I am very confident in where we are going and how this initial group of coaches is coming together. I look forward to meeting everyone who is ready to make Sun Devil basketball great very soon. So this is another, really, the second half of this quote is just like, oh, they're good coaches, and I'm happy to have them. Nothing about our momentum has changed. Okay, I mean, I hope that's true. It seems fairly true based on some of the additions that have come through in the portal, which I will go over now. So, as I mentioned, Mayusin, Jop, Santiago Truett, and Pig Johnson have all entered the portal. Of those four, the only one who's, and I don't want to be rude, but like the only one who was like an actual real, we're really going to miss him loss is Jop. And that was very predictable, and he's going to be one of the top players on the market, I imagine. And so it is what it is. You'd love to keep him. In a previous era of college basketball, he would stay, and all these things like that have been talked out, and people have shared their opinions on over and over. And now it's just like, okay, like, well, what do we do now? What's the next step? So I'm kind of, I wish Masamba Diop the best, but moving forward, the other three guys are, again, like I mentioned, they're solid college basketball players, but I don't think they're actually like earth-shaking losses. One player that stayed is, let me find it. And this is from ASU Hoops Central, who is a great source for ASU men's basketball, contributes to Double Digest, and has been on the show before. Bryce Ford. He will return. And this is what ASU Hoops Central writes. Find some good news regarding the roster. It looks like Ford will be returning to ASU for his senior season, according to his Instagram. The 6'4" shooting guard was a solid contributor for the Sun Devils last season. Averaged just under 7 points and 1.6 rebounds per game. Started 20 of 27 games. I'm happy about getting Bryce Ford back. He's not, again, he's closer to like Truett and Mayusin and Pig Johnson than he is to Jop. I'm not blind about that, but he was I would say a legitimate player for us. Like he was much better than I anticipated, because I believe he came from Toledo. And so like when you're getting a guy from the MAC, like you don't, who knows, right? Let's see. Yes, he was at Toledo. And his production really didn't drop off. Like he averaged 7.1 points per game in 25 at Toledo, and he averaged 6.9 points per game at ASU while shooting worse from three. He's a good free throw shooter. He's just a solid basketball player. And like, look, it's cool that he's from Scottsdale, went to Pinnacle, right? Like that. Excuse me. That probably helps in terms of, making staying at ASU a bit more attractive than maybe some other players out there. And early on in the season, I mean, you look at what he did in November, and granted, again, lower competition, but like 11 points, 6 points, 11 points versus Gonzaga, 8 against Georgia State, 20 points against a Hawaii team that made the NCAA tournament, 18 points versus Wazoo. And then you get to the start of Big 12 play. It's a lot of like 9 points against Oregon State, 10 points against Houston. You got 9 against U of A. You got 11 points against UCF. Like, yeah, and you get some, 7 points. But 9 points TCU, 8 points Utah, 7. Like, and again, that's not that like, oh, he scored, 8 points a game, but it shows that he's a real contributor. And I just believe that like getting a guy like that is important. And now let's look at the roster, at least on ESPN, because I wasn't planning on doing this. Okay, so who's okay, so some of these guys have already entered the portal, but they're just very like Marcus Adams Jr. He entered the portal a while ago. He barely played this year, so I totally understand. Cash Polk, he's a freshman, barely played, a Hurley recruit. Okay, makes sense that he entered the portal. Dame Salane, I think he was injured. Like we never saw him this year, so I don't even know what his status is. Truett is leaving. VJ Wallace, another guy we barely saw. Like he was injured. I don't know what happened with him. You have Anthony Johnson. So if you can retain Marcus Adams, Trevor Best. The fact that he stayed last year makes me think that there's a decent chance he stays again. I could see Trevor Best staying. I could also see him leaving. It's the Mike Francesca. I could see him winning the game. I could see him losing the game. Job is gone. Jovan Ikstovic. I don't remember him at all. Adante Holloman, again, another injury guy. He's gone. Quentin McCoy. I think that's more of a deep bench guy. And then you get Odom and Mukeba, who are solid contributors, but they're both seniors, so they're going to pursue professional opportunities, whatever those may be. And then you get the Mayusin, Johnson, and then Truett. And then you have a guy like Andrija Grbovic, who, again, similar type of scoring stats. And I thought that he was solid. I thought that he was very solid for what he was. I thought he would shoot 35% from 3. I thought that would be a little bit higher based on what I saw, but he's, taller than you think. And, I would be happy with keeping him. And so if you can you already have Ford. If you keep Ford, Best, and Grbovic, then I'm not saying you're like starting at some awesome spot, but you at least have some level of consistency. And I'm kind of searching X right now to see if Grbovic has entered the portal. I do not see anything, so that probably means he's staying, at least for now. Yeah, no, it's all just previous starting lineup. So that means that he will probably likely stay. Again, like, and the thing with Grbovic and Ford, it's not like these guys have enormous markets either. So, and that's just kind of how it is. But, I think for a guy like him, you want to retain him as well. So, and he had a lot more double-digit scoring nights than Ford. So those guys would be great. And then let's get into who is actually arriving at ASU as well. And so earlier today on Friday, ASU picked up its first official transfer portal edition in LSU wing Marcus Vaughns. He, former 4-star, has the connection with Coach Patrick from LSU. And 6'8", and so like he's got some legit potential for him. And like, just this is a guy you want to have, especially for the type of where ASU is in the level of college basketball, like standings or stature. Like you want to get a former 4-star 6'8" guy, who already has the connection with your assistant coach. He's from Australia, right? Enrolled at LSU in January, didn't play. I think this is a worthy addition to add. Another player that is visiting, this would be St. Mary's small forward Dylan Shaw. He shot 42% from three. This is from Chris Cartman. Shot 42% from three as a 6'7" freshman at St. Mary's. Perhaps their best young prospect. Number 14, small forward in the portal. Averaged 7.5 points and 5.4 rebounds per game. I think this is a. If you can get Shaw along with Vaughns, then you already have some size on the perimeter. And then again, this is like not even mentioning all the guys that like ASU is like connected to. You see some of these accounts, and it's like there's a guy from like Utah Valley, and it's like so and so from Utah Valley has heard, and it's like 10 Power 5 schools, and Arizona State's in there. And there's a guy from Oklahoma State where it's the same thing. So and so from Oklahoma State has heard from these 10 Power 5 schools, and then a guy from Sam Houston. It's like so and so from Sam Houston has heard from these. So ASU is in the mix with a lot of these guys. You get like 2 or 3 more. Like the roster is starting to come together now. It doesn't. It seems like some of these guys from St. Mary's, it's a little less one-to-one that they're going to transfer here. And that's a little suboptimal. If we could get the guy Maruskis, Paulius Maruskis from there, that would be great. But, like when the portal opens, like other teams can contact them too, and other teams have more money than we do for men's basketball. So, like, I'm sure this is something Bennett was aware of, and I'm not totally worried about it. And one of their guys is returning, Dent. So, we'll see. But if you can get Dylan Shaw, that would be a good add. So overall, with men's basketball, I think things are going, I don't know. I would just say like they're going fine, considering the fact the coach is in the hospital still, it seems. But it seems like Croy and Rahone and Patrick are really supplementing him well, and I think that they're off to a decent start in the portal. And again, it's all about just getting guys who can run Bennett's defense and they're capable of executing in his offense. And like, there you go. Like, it's not about this is why you hire Randy Bennett, because it's not about being like John Calipari and getting all this super high end talent. It's about getting guys that fit the system, and the system can help you, maybe get a few wins you wouldn't have otherwise gotten. And all of a sudden, a team that goes 18-17 goes 22-13, and then you're in the tournament, right? Give or take. So, basically, all of this is to say, for me, rambling for a half hour, I cannot believe that. I try to make these kind of quick, and then I just yap. I guess that's why I'm recording. But overall, I feel pretty good about the state of affairs with ASU men's basketball, and a lot of it is just due to the fact that they got these high profile assistant coaches, and so I'm excited to see how the roster kind of shakes out in the coming weeks. Okay, let's go to baseball real quick. So, first of all, like, it's been a good season, and I think what's nice is that you can tell that this is clearly the best team they've had under Willie Bloomquist, and there have been very few, with the exception of losing to UNLV on Wednesday night, which was annoying. But like, it was a back-to-back after they beat Grand Canyon. But I think that ASU baseball is generally like going strong. Losing at home to West Virginia was tough, especially with how awesome that game on March 27th, the Landon Hairston Grand Slam. Who, like, Landon Hairston is just, he's awesome. And he's kind of the best thing in ASU athletics right now. I mean, it's incredible to see. And I hope he can close out the Golden Spikes Award. That would just be an incredible achievement. And I mean, he deserves it. He's been an excellent player. Pitching has clearly been better this year, which is the thing that we've all complained about in the past. And now, like, you've got, I don't want to say an easy part of your schedule. I don't know how good BYU baseball is. But I mean, Utah is not good. You have them, and you're hosting them. You don't have to go to Salt Lake. Oh, come on, just show me what it is. I hate these athletic websites so much. There we go. Okay. BYU baseball. Yeah, they're 500, so they're not that good. So you have them next weekend. This weekend, you host Utah. And again, like this should be a sweep. It was annoying that you didn't sweep U of A, but whatever. You took 2 out of 3. And okay, Utah's a little better. They're 16-13, but ultimately not that good either. So like you have an opportunity as ASU baseball to rack up a. They're not going to go 7-0. They could easily go 6-1 in this stretch with 3 games against Utah, 3 games against BYU, and then you host U of A. And I think this team, what they've shown you is they're capable of that. It's these losses. If you look at the 10 losses that they have, it's the 4 to the SEC programs, and those were various levels of disappointing given each game. You have 1 to TCU, who's a good program, and then you still win the series. So 5, all to like good teams. You have 1 to Kansas State, and ultimately like a win that you would totally take. Like, okay, like you go 2 out of 3, and yeah, the individual game is ugly, but you still won the series. So that's 6. 2 versus West Virginia. Those hurt. It's 8. You lose once to U of A, and then the loss to UNLV. Like that's your first loss to a non-Power 5 program, and it was also the day after a game as well. So I guess they were kind of due for one of these midweek losses. But this series at UCF. Oh, okay, this is a weird. They have at Missouri. That's interesting. But at UCF's been a good team in the Big 12. This is probably the most important series of the year for ASU. First 3 days of May, if you can take 2 out of 3 in Orlando, I'll be a lot more bullish heading into the Big 12 tournament. I think that's kind of a series you have to circle, I would say, because Kansas is a good baseball team, but you don't play Kansas. Baylor, I'm looking up who you have. But my point is, like, there's just a lot of teams that you're playing who are just either average or bad. And ASU has shown that they've basically been able to take care of business. So Baylor is 19-14. So if you're at Baylor, like you should probably, if you're at Baylor at the end of the month, or you host Baylor, like you should either sweep or win 2 out of 3. And then I'm not going to get into Oklahoma State and Houston, but you get my point. Like I think things are set up for them to just keep mowing along, and if they can just stack these wins and host a regional, that would be such an important step forward for this program and really just getting back to where they should be. This is the program at ASU of the main sports, teams. Like this is the one where it's the most reasonable to have the highest expectations. It's just, there's a lot of things going for it, especially now with the scholarship thing that they added and all this. Like you have real things in your back pocket as a program. And so but look, like we can look a month ahead or whatever, like that's fine. In this stretch that they have coming up, I'd really love 6-1 with the 3 Utah games, U of A and at BYU. Like I think 6-1 is extremely doable. Then all of a sudden you're 30-11 with a month to go, basically, like that's a good place to be. That means you're in good shape to win, like 45 games. And you do that and like you do well in the Big 12 tournament, win the Big 12 tournament, you can host a regional. So um, that's kind of where I'm at with ASU baseball. I wanted to shout them out. ASU football, a little bit of everything. Some pro stuff. Jack Jones signed a 1-year deal with the Niners. Chase Lucas signed a 1-year deal with the Buccaneers. Good luck to those two guys. Two guys drafted in the 2021 NFL draft later. Well, I guess Jack Jones was mid-round, but Chase Lucas, 7th round. Keeping their NFL careers alive. And so happy for those guys. Jordan Tyson, there's been a lot of buzz around Jordan Tyson. Where's he going to go in the draft? All this stuff. I haven't really been that worried about it because, well, for him, he's going to be a first-round pick. It's not like he was someone who was mocked to be like the 20th pick and then he's going to fall out of the first round type of deal because of his injury history. It's more, okay, he was mocked to be like the 8th pick, and Peter Schrager had Tyson getting picked at 9 by the Chiefs. So there's a chance that he goes higher than people think. A lot of drafts have him kind of in the 16, 18 range. Like if you can, and by the way, like if he falls to the 20, like around the 20th pick, 18, 22, around that range, that means he would go to a team that has just a better record, a better quarterback play, most likely. And that's just a better spot for him to start his career. Like Justin Jefferson was like the 22nd pick in the draft. JSN, 20th pick in the draft. Brandon Ayuk, ASU wide receiver. Like he went to the Niners, I believe it was like the 22nd, 23rd pick in the draft in the 2020 draft after the 2019 season. And, Ayuk's kind of doing his own thing now, but he went to a good organization and, put up good numbers there. And so I think the ideal thing, if you're Tyson, getting drafted by the Chiefs at 9 or the Rams at 13 would be ideal because you're getting the best of both worlds. You're getting the higher draft slot, more money, more prestige that comes with that. And you're going to a good organization. You're already going, like, you don't have to worry about who your quarterback's going to be. You're playing with either Mahomes or Stafford. And so that would be ideal for him. As a Seahawks fan, I do not want him going to the Rams at all. Please. But like for him, I mean, that would be an excellent place for him to be. And so with this workout that he's having, April 17th, which is like a week before the draft, basically. This is from Schefter. ASU wide receiver Jordan Tyson, projected first-round pick, will hold his own individual workout day for NFL teams on Friday, April 17th at ASU. This tells me that like his hamstring is fully healed. And I do not blame him one bit for opting out of all of these things, because with the hamstring, you do not want to mess around and re-aggravate that and then screw it up even worse for the draft, especially since like even if he didn't do this, he would still be a first-round pick. And so if he has a great workout and all this, like maybe he rises up draft boards and who knows, right? Like I think that this is probably advantageous for him. So wanted to touch on that with draft stuff. Nothing really else new. It seems like the most likely outcome is that ASU has 4 guys picked in the draft. ESPN's Matt Miller, he did like a thing where he was like 482 players that he ranked. And Tyson was in the top first round. Ian Nachor was in the second round along with Abney. And then Keyshawn Elliott was like a 4th round pick. And then after that, it was no one. So there's a chance that like ASU has 2 first-round picks in Tyson and Ian Nachor. Abney goes in the 2nd round, and then Keyshawn Elliott's like a 4th round pick, and then there's nobody, which would be kind of weird. Like usually You would expect someone to get picked in like the 6th or 7th round. If that were to be someone, it would probably be Ghost Rouser. He seems like the most likely to be the 5th guy off the board for ASU. So that'll be kind of something interesting to watch at the end of the draft. But it seems pretty certain that those 4 guys are going to get picked. And I know that a lot of places have Iheanacho as a 2nd round pick. Like, I just think he's going to go in the 1st round. The video of Vrabel, kind of working him out at the ASU Pro Day, I think that's very telling. I think it's telling that like there's some teams with offensive line needs late in the 1st round. I've seen him mock to Houston often. I've seen him mock to the Eagles. I just think that a guy of his size, he's really high on some boards. Like Nate Tice, I believe, had him like 11th overall is in all the draft. And he also gets a lot of hype from doing the best against the guys at Texas Tech. So I just believe that he's going to be a 1st round pick. But either way, he's not going to slip out of the 2nd round. So then Abney will probably be a 2nd round pick, most likely. And then Elliott, mid rounder. So kind of checking in on the draft. Spring football. Haven't been to spring football. I know there's been some open practices. I would consider going tomorrow, but have some other plans in the West Valley. But, it seems like everything's kind of going to plan. The quarterbacks overall there's been more competition than I expected. There's been a lot of positive review. Boley, I think he had some rough practices early, which is, I don't know, that's kind of expected. I don't really think that's some huge thing. But he's really found a connection with Reed Harris based on everything I've seen from social media. And he hasn't looked like a lemon, I guess. He hasn't looked like ASU just completely wasted its NIL getting him. And then you have Fetty, who Fetty is doing awesome. And like this guy was in high school recently. So if he balls out, great. You have Cam Dyer playing well. Like, so I'm really happy with the quarterbacks. Not too much to be gained from like, I don't know, like I don't want to put too much stock in like line of scrimmage guys. I think it's important that the 2 Power 5 transfer defensive linemen, Jalen Thompson and Amarian Winston, have both looked good in their time here at ASU. And so, like that's one of the benefits of ASU having just a better portal class is like you're not getting transfers coming up from Utah State and, Bowling Green. You're getting Amarian Winston from Baylor. You have Jalen Thompson from Michigan State coming to ASU. Now, Owen Long was from Colorado State, but he was also like one of the top linebackers in the portal, wanted by Indiana, and he's balled out. He might be like the biggest name of ASU spring ball so far. And then you have the wide receivers like Amarian Miller has looked good when we've seen him. Reed Harris looks like a freak. And I just think people, especially nationally, are still kind of behind on how good this guy is. And I'm just so excited to watch him play in the maroon and gold this year. I just think everything we've seen, he's mossing guys, he's beating guys deep. And then you have Raiden Vinesbright, who a clip went viral of him just like totally cooking a guy in the line of scrimmage. And I mean, he looks very sleek and just like a polished route runner. Again, UW fans did not want to lose him. Okay. Speaking to someone who like roots for UW as their like kind of casual second team, like that was not that wasn't like, oh, he just was caught behind guys. Like, no, like they wanted him to be a featured guy. So Vine's bright, and then you have the lower receivers that like Jaron Hamilton is still like, oh, this guy didn't like stop being fast. Like he's still a really good option. Jalen Moss, I'm excited to see what we get from him. Eusebio as well. So like the receiving group, like this could be pretty good. And you have good tight ends. Offensive line still TBD. I like some of the names. I don't really know how it's all going to play out right now. Time to get that kind of in order. But I just like so far so good from spring football, and um, you know, I don't really have I guess there's battles in the secondary and all that, but like uh, based on everything I've heard and seen on social media, like things seem to just kind of be progressing in a natural positive motion, which is good. And there haven't been so far any reported major injuries, which is really the most important thing. And additionally, I did, this is something that kind of came and went while I just didn't record for 2 weeks, was Clayton Smith at wide receiver, and fans were complaining about, oh, why is he spending this time at wide receiver and all this? And then it's like, basically came out that like, yeah, like he's going to be in some packages and he can do some things at wide receiver, but he's going to be like, he's practicing at defensive line this week. And it's like, okay, that's good. Like, I'm very glad that with the wide receiver depth that ASU has and what the solid, good production that Clayton Smith has shown at defensive end in his 3 years at ASU, like it makes way more sense for him to just continue to be a defensive end. And so I think just getting him back is such a great thing for this team. He's not like the next Terrell Suggs or anything, but he's just a good player to have on the defensive line. And so I'm kind of glad that, and I didn't really ever suspect this, but I'm glad that it's not like, oh, this is a permanent thing. He's going to be like the Travis Hunter on defense type of deal. Like, no, he's just going to play defensive end for the most part, and we'll put him in on some pass plays. So I like that. And yeah, it's unfortunate that there's not really any sort of spring game or spring showcase, but I also understand why ASU isn't doing that. It seems like very few programs are. So, what really concerns me about this season is not really the team itself, but more the schedule. I think as the season gets closer and closer, it's like, oh man, like you have 3 road games at A&M, Texas Tech, and BYU. That's just difficult. And if you can go 1-2 in those games, then you really set yourself up for that gives you more wiggle room to have a successful season in 2026. So that's just it's kind of tough that it all lined up like that this year. But we don't know how it's all going to play out. I think that's something that has to be kind of acknowledged every year. Like we don't know how. When we saw the schedule last year, did people think that Houston coming to Tempe that was going to be a team that went on to win 10 games? I don't think so. I was high on them, and I'm actually pretty high on Houston this year too. But like, we didn't know that. And on paper, like you wouldn't have thought ASU would have beaten Texas Tech last year, but they did. And so Arizona, like at this time last year, we thought Arizona was really bad, and it turns out they were a pretty good team by the end of the year. And so like you don't know how it's all going to stack up when the season actually happens. So that's really it. Yeah, I think I wrapped everything up. ASU women's basketball keeping brackens as well, and softball does well. So yeah, I would love to see Randy Bennett at a press conference fairly soon. I think things have been going generally smooth, but it would be nice to know that he's like healthy, and I would just like to see him at a press conference. That's really it, but I can't complain too much. All right. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for liking and subscribing. Thank you for viewing. Please like and subscribe on YouTube. Please rate and review on your podcast platform of choice. And as always, go Sun Devils.